My pleasure to be here. This is a very dedicated group of people because it is a Friday afternoon. Many of you have worked. It is going into a 3-day holiday, and it's a time when I know a lot of you are planning to do some really nice things this weekend. But this is an important subject. It's also a fact that we have been working on this issue for some time, and it continues to be a very challenging issue, as you know. Dr. Gloria Crutchfield has been leading our task force on African American challenges and had a symposium recently at the Convention Center in which we had quite a few individuals from the community that are interested in this particular issue. I chatted with her this afternoon about her knowledge of this, etc., and she had indicated that she was aware of it and that, quite honestly, they were using some of the thoughts and the ideas in this program, and Brother Carl was in participation at that particular symposium, and also the same speaker. And I told Dr. Crutchfield that in this particular case, imitation is one of the greatest forms of flattery, because we are seeing this being re-emphasized. Now, I have a question for you in terms of beginning my remarks tonight. How many of you have ever mountain climbed? Have you ever tried to climb a mountain? Or even been to North Carolina and tried to climb a reasonably good-sized hill? Well, most of us understand that when you start up a mountain, you start off in the foothills, and that's not that difficult, you know, and you climb and you climb and you climb, and all of a sudden it gets steeper and it gets steeper, and pretty soon you get to the point where it becomes more difficult, and eventually you get to the point where you're trying to reach the summit, and in some cases there are even grave results of people who attempt to reach that summit, because in many cases it's very difficult. And I would submit to you that part of our challenges in moving all students, and particularly the African American, and particularly the African American male, it's much like climbing a mountain. It's there to be conquered and conquested, and we must do that, but it is not easy. Palm County School District has been attempting to ascent the mountain for some time. As a matter of fact, we have it as one of our goal mountains, and that is the achievement of our African American students. Now, just as a matter of our journey, in the last 10 to 11 years, we have gone up 25% in our graduation rate, because that's the quintessential example of public education. The genius of our democracy, public education. The crown jewel of public education is commencement. Our commencement rate, our graduation rate, has gone up 25% in the last 10 to 12 years. However, when we look at the gap, we have a little bit more concern, because our white students have gone up. As a matter of fact, that 25% is from 58% to now 82.5% overall. But white students have gone up from 81 to 91%. African American students have gone from 54% up to 71%. But African American males have gone from 53 to 72. So in other words, the white males in that same period of time have increased by 10%, but the African American males have increased by 22%. That means that the gap is closing, and it's closing in a statistically significant manner, but it's still a gap, because as you noticed, I said we ended up at about 73% for African American males, where we are at 91% for white males. That's unacceptable. I know that, and you know that. But as we climb up this mountain, I'm telling you that it's not without resistance. And I didn't say without difficulty, I said without resistance, because there are political, there are psychological, there are a number of factors economic in this society that make this of helping young men and women, and especially African Americans, reach the top of this mountain that occur every day. You look across this nation at what's going on in every urban school district, and they're trying to do the same thing. And the amount of resistance that we get from communities played out in Palm Beach County last year, I don't have to tell you that. You know, this famous material that's out right now, Waiting for Superman, it seems like every time we get a Superman trying to do that in a community, the community in some way or another tries to kill that effort. And again, I'm going to back and say again that there are political reasons for that. Some people don't want it to happen. Some people don't believe it'll happen. Some people don't think it should happen. And that's a tremendous failing of our society. But the reality, it has to happen. This is a moral imperative that we make sure all of our young people in Palm Beach County, and especially the African American young people, get a good education and graduate from high school. Palm Beach County is now 65% minority. That is our pipeline. It is 50% poverty, and that has been an increase that has dramatically occurred over the last few years. So, who are you tonight? You're citizens. Why are you here? Because you understand this is important issues. You are potentially the leaders in the community that can help us by engaging the parents and the community leaders to do everything that you can to assist the school system. Now, it's not fair to say, well, if the parents did a better job, you know, our kids would get educated. Because you know what? When we don't educate a student, they drop out from high school, then they go out and have children. How are they in a position to help that child get a good education? They're not. But neither is it fair to say, the school district, it is your responsibility to educate these students. Because I can tell you, we can't do it by ourselves. It is hard, hard work. And it's not, as I said earlier, it's not just because it's difficult. It's not because when young people come to us and they don't have the necessary background and they don't have the necessary support at home. But in addition to that, you have all of these political and psychological and economic reasons in many communities that stand in the way of this. And all I have to say is to point back to last year. And you think about all the articles that you read about the resistance to what we were trying to do as a system, you know, and it speaks volumes as to why it's so hard to reach the top of that mountain. So I'm you know, flattered that you would invite me here and that you would ask me to speak to you. I'm looking forward to having a reconfirmation of what was stated at the last summit, because this is not only an imperative in terms of what we have to do in Palm Beach County for our young people, but this is what I would call God's work. So thank you for inviting me.